Hello there and welcome to this tutorial, and today we are back on Tekla Structural Designer. We are going to create a very simple portal frame and apply area loadings on rafters and the columns. Join me, I'm Morris Dimba, and we'll get started right away. If you take a look on the screen here, you can see a default window when you immediately open Tekla Structural Designer. So in here we are going to create new. So the moment you create, we click on new, we'll have two tabs here. We have 2D and 3D. We have 2D and 3D viewport. So I'm going to grab a 3D viewport and take it and align it with this arrow on my right here. So the moment you mouse on top of this arrow, you'll be able to see this viewport becoming active. Just release your left button right there. So you'll have these viewport. So prior to starting anything, first of all, go to model settings so that you define the settings. You set out the working parameters that you'll be applying on your structure. Now I'm going to model settings here. I'll click on model settings. So immediately you click on model settings, this dialog box will come up, and the key part or the key points or the key sections you are going to pick on is just the units and the design codes. So I'll come to design codes here, and you can see I'm working with United Kingdom standards. So if you wish to change this, just click on this drop down arrow and you can pick among these choices. So let's stick with that, and if I come to units here, I'll pick on dimension. I'll click on dimensions, and the moment you click on dimensions, you'll have two options here. We have millimeter, centimeter, and meters. I always prefer working in millimeters, though one of our subscribers requested me to, next time when I do or create a model, I work on imperial. So I don't mind working imperial. Next time I'll do that. So the moment I click on millimeter, if you wish to change or change the precisions here, you can just pick or select one of these, but I'll just give it a precision of 1 millimeter right there. So these are the key. So let's just walk down. Under reference, we have text here. So under text, we have all the steel members have been marked or by default. Here in Tekla Structural Designer, we have beam abbreviated as B, column abbreviated as C, brace BR, all the way to the far end here. So what I'm going to do, once I've defined this and this, I'll just go ahead and click OK, because these are the key. So once you've done that and you've known you're now working with a certain unit or units, I'm going straight to model. So the moment I click on model, you'll still be able to see our grid line still gray. So as by default, even on site work, the moment you want to bring up a building, the first thing you see people try to create is the foundation. You lay down the foundation. The foundation is the same thing here in design. The first thing, if you do the modeling, first of all, you try to create or to lay down the grid lines and lay down the measurement that will help you create that particular structure. So in this particular case, we are going to create a grid line first. Now, if I mouse over these two tools, all these two tools, you can see we have they have been grayed off, means they're inactive. They are inactive. So to activate them or to make them active, I'll click in one of these viewport. So I'll click on the 2D section and click on that spot, and both of them will be active. So I'll go ahead and click on this drop down arrow here, and I'll have some variety of options on how I can create the grid line. Also, we have an option here. You can import the DXF from AutoCAD. There you can just click and import it and put it inside your working area. So I always like working with the rectangular wizard in creating the XY in creating the grid line. So I'll go ahead and click rectangular wizard. So the moment you click on it, this window will come up, levels and grid name. So we have default grid name here, AG1. You can leave it or you can give it a different name. So we have grid color here. our grid line will be red, and I don't like that. I'll change this, so I'll just click on this color here and come here and change that color. So I'll go ahead to the next step by clicking the next button, and I'll retain this the XYZ origin at 0. I'll go ahead and to the next step. So all the lines, I'll come and select the line type here. These ones, just leave them at default, don't change anything here. Now I'll come to line style here. So under line style, I'll click on this drop down arrow and pick any line style here, but I always like working with dash type. So the moment you've picked on that, just go ahead and click the next button. So under next button on X direction extents, we have two options here under bay. We have regular and irregular option. So under irregular, this works best if your base or center to center of your columns, the distance varies. One, maybe you have 5 meters, the next one you have 6 meters, the next one you have 3 meters. So you can work well with base here. So the moment you click on base here, you can feed in your measurements here. Let me just do one. Let me just delete that and feed in 6 meters. So you separate your measurements with a comma like that. So that's how you work with irregular lengths. So let's first of all go back to regular, where we have a constant bay measurements or bay distances, or center to center column are the same. In this particular case, we have 11 bays here, and the center to center of our columns are 6 meters. So what I'm going to do, if I leave alone the grid, the grid names at default here, I'll go to the next stage by clicking next. So in here we have regular once again, but this on the span. So the span here, we have 2 bays. You can see here we have one and 2. So the distance between center to center of our columns will be 12 meters. From this center to this center will be 12 meters, and from here to here will be 12 meters. So we'll feed that 12 meters here, making it a total of 24 meters in span of our structure. So once you've done that, just go ahead and click next, and on rotation, just retain it at 0. If you go next, on rotation once again, maintain it at 90, then click finish. So the moment you click on finish, you'll be able to see you have a grid line on your 2D section and a grid line on your 3D section. So we are going straight to start laying our steel members. So how do we do that? Under model, just click on the model tab here. So the moment you click on the model menu here, just come to portal frame, click on portal frame right there, or just click on portal frame, I mean that, and zoom out. So you will realize the moment you click on this tool here, you'll be able to see your cursor is able to snap at any intersection here. If you mouse over on any intersection, it will show some snapping. It will be able to snap on any point. So let me snap on that spot and snap all the way, and move all the way and snap on this spot. So the moment you snap on those 2 points, this dialog box of portal frame will come up, and this will give you an opportunity to define whatever you want and feed in your exact parameters how you want them to be. So we have this, and you can see the span is 24 meters in length. So under span type, we have standard. So if you can change this standard to a different one. Under standard, we have symmetric, we have monopitch, we have propped, we have flat top, we have mansard. So we need a standard span. So we'll retain that span at standard. So the length is 20 meters. The axis, as you can see. So we want to edit this further because we've not defined the eave height of our column, of our building. So to get those settings or parameters defined properly, come to edit button here and click on edit right there. So another dialog box of span 1 will come. So with the option 1 on top here, click on that one and retain it at standard still. And if you come to length of the span is 24 meters, just retain it there. So if you come to left hand level, we'll define our eave height as 7 meters here in my case. So we'll come to apex here, and apex will define the slope. We'll give it 20. We'll give it 8 degrees slope. So we leave it at that. So the moment you've fed in, or you've typed in the correct parameter, just go ahead and click OK. So you can see this. On the right eave we have that, and on the left eave we have that. So once this has been done, don't click OK until you define everything here. So we'll skip valleys. We'll come to base. We'll bases here. So under bases here, the bases will remain at pinned, or this option of fixity type will not feed in spring. We'll just maintain them at pin. So levels, we want our columns to start from 0 level. So instead of going underground by 450 millimeter, we'll just ignore that or change that. So if you come to haunches, we have eaves left, right hand, apex left hand, right hand, and eaves right hand. So the length of the haunches, we have 2.4, and on the apex we have 1.2, and on the right hand we have 1.2 also, and the right we have 2.4. So let's change this. Let's change the depths of our haunches first, or and the eave apex haunch. So this one will give 55, 50, and this one will change is same to that, and this one will give it 420 right there, and this one also will feed it 420. So we have an option here where you can change the sections here, but this section can only change the end plates. So you can see the sections has been graded off. So the only thing you can change here is just the end plate. You can click on the change end plate here, and you can also work on overlap options on the end plate. You can either choose flash or extended option, and projection you can leave it at default 20 millimeter. And also bottom overlap, you can just retain it at flash. The thickness of the end plate, you can change that either to 10, or you can just leave it to 20 millimeter thick. It's upon you to change that. So just go ahead and click. The grade is that, the strength is that, and I'll go ahead and click OK. If you're comfortable with that, with what you see, I'll go ahead and click OK. So I'll come to rafters here. Just take a look on what we've changed. We've changed the depths, and we've retained the length of eave haunch and apex haunches. So I'll come to rafters. So under rafters, we'll define the sections of the rafters here. First of all, the capacity here, will change this capacity to user attribute, or user to make a decision, or to define whatever you want. So under section, we'll change this section to a different one. So I'll just click on the section here, and this will bring this dialog box of selection. So in here, I'll be able to select. So I'll click on the universal beam and scroll up, and I'll be able to pick on 56 by 171 here, and pick on that. Mark that. Don't feed in different things. Now I've fed this 56 by 171. I'll go ahead and click OK, and go to the on the right hand rafter and define the same thing. I'll go ahead and click that and add that. So once I'm comfortable with that, I'll go to the next step of column and click on that. So on the columns also, I'll change the capacity here to user, and I'll come to sections here and define the sections. You can see this section slightly smaller. This column section slightly smaller in size compared to the rafter sections. So let me change these sections to my preference. So under universal columns, I'll pick on this. I'll not use universal columns, I'll use universal beams here. I'll pick on the universal beam and scroll down and pick on this. So once I've picked on that, I'm going to the next one and pick the same thing. I'll scroll down and pick on that, and you can see we have a similar thing. So we have ties. If you need the ties, you can select, you can check that box, but the primary settings are normally from spans to columns here. So you go ahead and click OK. So the moment you click OK, you'll be able to see this. You'll be able to see this. So let me just first of all drag this and take it on top of that, so that we see everything clear. So you can see whatever we have. We have our haunch in place, and we have our apex in place. You can see that. So let me populate this along the grid line. So I'm going to select on it, right click and come to copy and select on copy. So I'll snap on this bottom end and place it right there, and just move on and copying them on these grid intersections that defines the base right there. So I'll click OK and close that. So the moment I close that, I'll be able to now to maneuver around and check how this looks, and turn that round like that. Check the isometric view. Let me click on that, press escape, and I'll be able to check on that. See the section right there. You can turn that round. You can take your route to isometric. Now let's first of all place the bracings. So in this particular case, we want to place the bracings, and to do that, we just come to bracings, click on that drop down arrow, and click. We have variety of braces. We have X brace, we have K, we have V, we have A. So let's work with the X brace. I've clicked on X brace. So on my far end here, on my left here, we have a small window where we are able to feed in all whatever we want to be defined on our structure. Now I'll come to sections here. I'll come to design sections, and I'll check we need this will be under tension. I'll check on tension only, and under design section I want to change the section or define the sections for my braces. I'll click on this drop down arrow here and pick new edit. So the moment you click on new edit, this will bring you to a profile catalog here, and in here I'll be able to pick a still section which I prefer to work or to use as my brace. So in this particular case, I've just jumped a step higher. Let me first of all place the tie beams first of all prior to going to braces. Let me close that, and I'll come to column here and click on the beam. And so under beam, I'm going to define this beam here. I'll come to section here. I'll come to sections here, click on that, and let me just drag this so that I can see whatever I'm trying to find out. So we have design section. I'll click on beam, click new, and I'll come to beam right here. I'll pick on the beam and click add. So I don't need that, just close it. I'll come to sections. I click on the section. After closing this, I'll come to sections here, click that drop down arrow and come to new. So under new, you'll be able to pick the appropriate section sizes. So I'm going to work with the hollow section. I'll pick on square hollow section here, and I'm going to use 100 by 100. I'll click select. So you realize the moment I mouse over this, Tekla Structural Designer is able to identify the snapping points at quarter distance, third distance, and midpoint, and at midpoint of this height. So let me just define it from that spot and move all the way to that spot, and begin another one from that spot and take it to that spot. Start another one from that spot and take it to that spot. So just let's first of all define this. Place tie beams here. Well, I'll place a tie beam right there from that spot to this spot, and drag that. Place another one here to here, and place another one from that spot to this spot. drag. To drag me, just press your mid button on your mouse and move your mouse. So snap on that spot and snap on that, snap on that, snap, and on that spot. So we are on the far end here, and this is our last tie beam. So I'll press escape to terminate that command, and I'm going to brace placement. I'll come to brace and pick on the X brace. So under X brace, it will be under tension on that. I'll check that tension, and design order, I'll come to that design order. I'll change the section to a different section. So I'll click on that drop down arrow and come to new here. I don't want to use that default setting. I'll scroll down and come to RSA or equal angles. I'll scroll down here and pick on equal angles right there. So under equals angles, I'll work with 70 by 70 or 80 by 80. I'll click OK. So I'll start defining my braces from that point, moving to that spot, and moving to that spot. To define a brace, you create some sort of a polygon. So I started all the way from this end and moved to that spot, and moved to this spot here, and come to this spot here, and finally I go to my initial spot to close that polygon. So you can see I've created a brace here. So I can go ahead and select. I can go ahead and select, right click, and come to copy, not spatial copy, where we are not on Tekla structures. So I want to copy this from that spot and move all the way to this far end here and place another brace on that spot. So I need one at the center here. I'll count this 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. I need 4. 1 2 3 4. I'll place another one here. I'll place another brace right there. So let's go ahead and place some braces on our rafters. So I'll come right on top here. I'll come right here and pick on the braces and start all the way from that spot and move all the way to that spot and terminate it somewhere there, and start one again from that spot and move all the way to that spot, maybe somewhere there, and terminate it on top of this. Terminate it right there. So we have braces in place. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to select on this and press Control and select on that, right click and come to copy and pick on copy. So I'll snap on that bottom on the bottom end right there and place another one right there, and move all the way and place another one right here. Once you're done with that, we are going to select all this, press Control and select all these braces. Just select all these braces by pressing Control and zoom out and press Control and select all this. Then what you do, come to edit and come to mirror. You come to mirror, and first of all click on your reference and click on at the point you tend to mirror these members. So this my reference point will be there, and my destination will be this far end. So if I click on this particular point, I'll be able to transfer or mirror all this on this section. So we've placed all this. So the next step is load placement, and prior to placing the loads or applying the loads, first of all we have to define our load panels. We have to define the panels for our on our rafters and on our columns. So I'll come to loadings here. If I come to loadings, you can see the loading menus are grayed off because we've not defined anything in relation to loadings. So I'll come to load cases here. I'll come to load cases first of all and click on load cases, and prior to doing that, we first of all let's lay the panels. I'll come to model. So under model, I'll be able to lay down or define my panels or place my panels where I'll be able to place my loadings. So I'll come to roof panel. So if I click on roof panel here, I'll be able to start defining my panels from that spot. move all the way to this far end here and place and define that spot right there, and move all the way to this far end and define another spot there, and move all the way to this far end, and I'll snap here and move to my initial spot to close this polygon. So I'll go the other end and start placing a different one, and start placing another panel on the other end, and move all the way to this far end and snap on that particular spot, and move to this particular spot, and move to my initial spot to close this polygon right here. I'll close it on that spot. So let's lay now the walls. I'll come to walls here. I'll place the wall panel from this spot, and that will be my initial spot. So I'll go all around and come to that spot to close that polygon to create a panel. So let me move to this spot here and move all the way to this far end here and place another point here, and now I'll snap on my initial spot, and that is my panel, my first panel. So let me just left click and rotate this. If you left click, you'll be able to move your cursor, you move your mouse, and you'll be able to rotate this without a hiccup. I'll come to wall, and I'll snap on this on the bottom end there, and move all the way to this far end and snap on that particular spot, and come to this far end and snap on that spot, and move to my I'm tracking back to my initial spot or point to close this polygon to create a panel. So we have the wall panel and the roof panels in place. So what we are going to create, or we are going to do, we are going to apply our area loadings on the rafters and on the walls. Now what do? We come to load, and we'll come to load cases right there. So these loading cases, loading dialog box will come up for load cases. So we have, by default, we have self-weight excluding slabs. We have self-weight that they've been graded off, because in this particular case we don't have slab at all. So we'll be working with these two loads, 2, 3, 4. So service loads, we'll try to change this to wind load. Just type wind load here, and we'll click on this drop down arrow and change this to wind right there. So once you've done that, just go ahead and click OK. Those are the loads that we're going to work with. We'll apply them on top of this area. Now once we are done with that, we'll come to, if you come closer, remember, if you want to move around or you want to pan, just mid click and hold your middle button on the mouse and move your cursor like that. You'll be able to move around. Now you can take a look here. We don't the loading menus are grayed off. So because the reason being, we've not defined on which particular load we are going to work on. So let's come at the bottom end here and click on this drop down arrow, and let's first of all start with the dead load. Pick on the dead load here. So we'll go to area load and click on this area load here, snap on that, and let's apply a different loading, or you can just retain it at 5 kilonewton meter squared, and we'll just click on top of this panel right there, and click on top of this panel once again. That is dead load, and we'll come to wind load. We'll click on wind load here, and we'll come to area load, click on that, and same load, we'll retain it at 5 and apply it maybe there and here, and maybe we can apply another one here and another one there, and we can come back to import loading. So you can click on that and click on that panel, and click on that panel, and click on that panel, and click on that panel. So that's how you apply your loadings, and generating the reports will come back on the next tutorial, and that you'll be able to learn from that. Thanks a lot for watching this video, and if you're new to this channel, and if this is your first video you've bumped into, please, you're welcome, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and be safe, stay away, and stay home. Bye bye. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe.